Hey everyone, Adam Perry here with TrueDFS, and I am going to go over today's small 5-game NHL DFS slate. We'll do the typical lineup build that we've been doing. You know, I tend to prefer building things on SaberSim, but we'll build it on our own hand build using the projections. Just kind of shows you the power of the projections and gives us an idea for the slate and where we might go and stuff like that. And frankly, it's a lot of fun to do it that way. So we'll just play around with it and see what we get. It helps us kind of know also the rotations. We start looking at natural stat trick and daily face-off and get an idea for the lines and stuff. And we sometimes find holes in the projections that kind of know puck knowledge. So we'll do that. Then we'll build for single entry on DraftKings. We'll build for FanDuel. I'm going to play in the 3-3-3, so I'll build for that, but we'll build for the flagship as people want. I don't think it's sharing my screen, is it? Let's see. Here we go. Got a projection update. So yeah, let's get into it. And before we do, like and subscribe. It helps us out. Is it still not? Should be screen sharing now. If it doesn't show up, we've had problems with Restream. I'll close it and I'll restart the stream. Here we go. Okay. So let's just get in. We'll build for DraftKings. Looking at the projections right now, you know, it's kind of good to look at like where guys bunching up, right? Because we want to correlate. We want to have like a 4-man stack or a 5-man stack. SaberSim really likes those 5-man stacks. They grade really well in SaberSim. We've got some conflicting kind of info because we also like to use the pay dirt model, which tends to prefer the 4-3s on the smaller slates and thinks that the 5-2s get overplayed. So kind of conflicting. I tend to go with SaberSim and go with the 5-2s. Again, they grade well. So we could see like what we could build. No one's really bunching up here. Minnesota kind of guys jumping up to the top. You know, we could try and build a Minnesota stack. They don't have a great projection and a great total going into New York, but the price is going to be right. And the correlation's certainly right. You know, if you look at Minnesota, you see that their top line, these guys that are jumping for value, are all going to be correlated on the power play. And then Boyum is cheap, and you throw Tarasenko in there. So, you know, we could do something like that and just see where it gets us. So we go Joel Eriksson Ek. What's up, Scott? Yeah, appreciate you being here. We'll go over some past contest results. Put which day or whatever you wanna look at. I don't know if you played yesterday, but if you did, then let me know. We'll take a look. Look at what you could do. It's really nice. Look at Minnesota, so cheap with the Boyum and Tarasenko. You could do a whole lot here. I mean, let's see. Top projected goalie, I imagine, is Shesterkin. So we can't play him because we have Minnesota there. But let's just see in terms of goalie. Yeah, but he's, you know, it's goalie and stuff. So Hellebuck standing out. Gustafsson coming as a good value. I mean, if you correlate Gustafsson, you could really mess with things. Now you got 4,500 a man. You know, Eichel's the top center. You can play Eichel. You don't have to go that high. Suzuki was jumping out. You could get him. Can you get Hudson in? No, you can't quite do that. There's a lot you could do with Minnesota. Now, Montreal was the other team kind of bunching up, and I think they have full power play correlation with line 1-2, which is always nice. Slavkovsky, Boldich, Hudson, you know, just say we want to correlate it with Dobes. You could do a lot there too. So who's going to project the best overall? I imagine that the highest totals, I think, are Vegas, maybe Carolina. Yeah, I mean, that game coming up. A lot of guys are on the 3s. So who's not going to project well? I mean, Calgary, Minnesota is not going to. Seattle also tends to give like even ice time to all their lines, making no one really stand out. I don't know how well that gets captured in the projections, but I'm always leery of playing those Seattles for that reason. But there you get an idea of what you could do with any of those. I was looking at Philly. Philly's another one of those teams that correlates, is a little bit better total. You're able to do a lot with Philly too. And Konechny, Couturier, Tippett are all on the power play one with Drysdale and Michkov. Yeah, someone in chat called out Michkov the other day, and he ended up scoring a goal. And we had like all unders on him too. You could do. I mean, they're dirt cheap. You could do a whole lot with these guys. I mean, you could play Shesterkin if you want then. 5,900, you could do a ton. So Philly kind of works. Something you could do. Let's see. What we really want to do is let the simulations run their course and do this for us. So I'm going to upload my lineup. And let's see. We got lineup for the 3-3-3. I am going to use Goldie's projections. We'll run for the flagship too. Let's just use Goldie's. I don't love leaving salary on the table. Now, stacks, I feel like Saberson is going to give us in our top ROIs a lot of 5-mans, but we'll take the 6-mans. We'll allow that. We'll allow 4 3s and above. You know, you could build these others if you want, but they're not going to grade well. Some of them will, but most of them won't grade well. And you're just going to have your pool with a bunch of junk in the 5,000 lineups. We want to make as many of these count as we can get. So I am all for just building the lineups we like. Now, one thing we should do, NHL game day news, is see if there's any news. You know, I like to monitor this a little bit throughout the day, just see if there's any late news. We kind of did a good job. Kirby, Doc, and Liney remain out. McCann won't play tonight. We did a good job. No Marco Rossi or Bogosian. I think these are all captured already. Flyers goalies, okay. Flyers have a new coach. I mean, that's one of the reasons they're a little bit more playable, right? Is Tortorella really blended up those lines and the correlation just didn't work the way you thought it was when you were going into the game. And guys weren't skating together the whole game. But now with, what is it, Touche? With this guy, things have been a little bit more stable. You can kind of look at that too if we want to look at the flow chart, but we don't need to. I think we've got the idea. Who's starting for the flag? I think Vladar's starting. Vladar stinks, but we don't need to play him to play the stack. But you could correlate him. But where were we? So no real news I think we need to monitor. We really hit it right with that Kopitar news the other day. We knew we had to monitor it. He ended up being out when he was in projections. It kind of changed everything. You know, it changed the correlation up, certainly, as Byfield slipped into power play 1 and Deneau on line 1. And we kind of were ready for that. So that was nice. So let's build for my single entry. It's a 4-max, but I'm only going to play 1 in it. I can't play all 4. It's a little too rich for my blood. But let's go. Okay, let's run a simulation of that contest and see what it likes. And, you know, this is what I'm going to do, right? So all this hand building is like, it's good, it's fun, it helps us know puck better as we look at things like the lines, and we look at natural stat trick to get the shift chart, which is like a popcorn machine for NHL, and you're going to get used to popcorn machine with NBA starting tomorrow. But ultimately, I'm a trust the process, trust the Sims kind of guy. So I just want to change the line of view. We get in the Rangers here. Get the Rangers with K'Andre Miller. I know Ghost Despair is out, so Miller should be getting a ton of playing time. Niederreiter coming in at a good value. And then just the onslaught of the Rangers, that whole power play, then adding in Cooley. It can be kind of the opposite of Minnesota, and you get Shesterkin in there. Let's see in our top 10 if it's just like Rangers popping, or if anyone else is coming up. And let's see what kind of stats grade the best too. Yeah, getting all onslaughts in our top 10. SaberSim loves those. I tend to agree. You get the Vegas onslaught in there. I imagine Vegas is pretty chalky as the highest total on the slate, but it's nothing standing out that much, and they aren't cheap. But you get the Vegas. You could play them at the late night hammer. The one issue with Vegas is like you can't really. You could kind of switch. If you're doing horribly, you could switch to Calgary, but you can't really switch. I suppose you could switch from Vegas to Winnipeg, but I don't think that's going to get you much. And you can switch to Carolina, but I don't think that's going to get you much either if you're not doing well. So it's kind of good to have the late swap ability, but I don't think there's a lot of swaps you could get in on. Let's see what one-offs. Niederreiter showing up. Yeah, I have follow makes sense on power play 1 for Winnipeg at 3,200. Matheson. SaberSim loves Matheson. I mean, he shoots a lot for a D-man. He's got a good floor. He was on power play 1 early last year. He's not now with Lane Hudson there, but makes sense to me. Here you can get some Vegas D-man, but a lot of these onslaughts. Tippett in there. Tippett's coming as a good value, like we said on Philly. You don't need to do the whole Philadelphia thing. They've got their total. I mean, this is averages, not medians, but it's got the 3-1 when Philly's probably exactly the same. Yeah, they've got them the same as the Rangers. Let's see if they're the same as Montreal. No, way less. SaberSim's a little lower on Montreal right now than the market. I say a little. I mean, it looks like a lot, but remember, betting markets are medians. SaberSim's giving us an average, so we can't. It's not a 1-to-1 comparison there. But yeah, I mean, if it were right now, this is the process I would do. I'd load my lineup. I'd build. I'd take a look at where it's gelming, and I would have me a Rangers onslaught probably. Let's take a look. Can we do... Now, I want to see if there is a way to build for the flagship. So what if we turn on a flagship sim? Even though we don't have the lineups loaded for it, I think we can get this done now. We struggled with this last time. Did I pick the top shelf? No, I want the kick save. We'll definitely do for the flagship on FanDuel. It's a little less exciting, just less people playing there. Yeah. We can't quite do it. But let's take this off altogether and just run for a general contest. It's like 1,000 entries. It doesn't have everything picked in, but let's see in a sort of 1,000 entry generic field what our highest ROI lineups are. Take a look. Get the sims going. Okay. Now let's see what now we get the 4-3s in there, the 5s with the 1-offs. Overall, just tons of Rangers. Tons and tons of Rangers. Right now, the ownership just isn't there, and the ceiling is. Now, the Rangers could be an up and down team, and they're kind of a defensive team, but you got Panarin, could always go off. You got Zibanejad. I mean, JT Miller's there. Can't complain too much. Adam Fox, a good offensive defenseman, gets a lot of assists. Why not? Let's see goalies if we get a ton of Shesterkin. Tons. Now, this is not, if we diversify our portfolio, it's going to change. And then I imagine the Rangers still pop, but we're going to get some more of this Vegas, some more of the Montreal. I have no doubt about it. Let's see if we can even do Portfolio Manager. We cannot. Okay. Fine. There you have the top ROI. It's just Rangers really popping right now. Things are going to change as they sharpen up, as ownership sharpens up throughout the day. But right now, Rangers is coming in as really high ROI lineup. I wouldn't go 50% of them. You're going to want to diversify your portfolio, but looking like the strong play in the early going. And look at projections. It wasn't entirely intuitive, right? I mean, Panarin and Fox kind of coming up high. Zibanejad, I mean, they're kind of clumping, but not that much. Vegas looks like a good play with Eichel as the top guy, but no one else in Vegas really coming in as a good value. So that pricing just kind of getting us out of there. Same with Carolina. Well, then, they might reflect ownership. So we're checking out. Let's build on FanDuel for the flagship over there. I'm going to upload my lineups. I just threw a couple in so I could do this exercise. We'll switch to Goldie's projections. We could leave the minimum salary. Now, we're going to demand a lot of correlation here. 4 4s, 4 3s, 4 2 2s. Do we want 4 2s? I don't even know. I don't want 4s with all 1-offs. I know that. So fine. But nothing less than 4-man stacks. And we shall build. Guys, while I'm doing this, don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out TrueDFS.com because you can get access to SaberSim and Sheets' projections, Goldie's projections that I'm using here. The pay dirt model for DFS and for betting. We'll take a look at some bets after this. Get access to all of that in one package. It's pretty exciting, and it's there isn't a package like that in the industry where you just get everything all in one. And it doesn't cost more than just getting SaberSim on its own. If you got SaberSim and pay dirt on its own, you'd be paying more. So you get a lot of stuff for all your DFS and betting needs. I highly recommend it. What's up, Big Cat? Appreciate you too. Let's run Sims for FanDuel on the flagship. And let's see if we once again get all that New York. Now, if we're diversifying our portfolio, we're not gonna get all that New York, I imagine. But I'll tell you one thing: if you're playing like the 3-3-3 on DraftKings and you're playing the Rangers, ask yourself, do you want to be heavy on them in FanDuel? I think the answer is a resounding no, but you have to think about how your portfolios play with each other. We could build a portfolio for DraftKings and we could build a portfolio for FanDuel, but your money is one portfolio, right? And so it's not quite sharp enough to know that, at least just yet. Maybe someday SaberSim will get there, but as of now, we're not there. So let's see our top 150 set for formats. A lot of Montreal, then the Rangers coming in, but pretty spread out with the portfolio. But really, there's no Seattle and Calgary in Minnesota. Vegas, you'd think we'd get Vegas more with one of the highest, or if not the highest total on the slate, but we're not getting that much Vegas. And, I suppose the reason is just that they're too expensive here too. So just not getting a lot on DraftKings, not getting a lot on FanDuel. Thoughts on stacking teams' top 2 lines on a short slate with goalie and 2 cheap defensemen? I don't see why not. If I were stacking if I was doing the onslaught, Big Cat, I would want the power play, right? I would want the 5-man power play and then adding a 6th guy. And I want to bring along cheap guys with it. So I don't think you want to spend too much. I think the key with the onslaught is that you're bringing along cheapos with them, right? I mean, let's like play around with this and see what doing top 2 lines. I don't know if you have a certain team in mind, but let's see Winnipeg. They're a high projected team. They're not cheap. So if we went with like their power play, you bring Iafallo along with it at 3,200. Now, do you want to get Niederreiter in there? Maybe that makes sense. You want to correlate it with Hellebuck, you said. You could do it. Now, the question, do you want to not do it with defensemen? I don't know. I think you want Morrissey in here. And frankly, I would maybe even consider not doing Niederreiter and doing something like DeMello or Stanley or Fleury. And just, these guys, well, they're not good, but they come along when these other guys do with an assist, right? So like, think about if you play one-off Ds, it can work, but like they have to get there on their own. Whereas here, if I throw in a Stanley, like, okay, he's not great, but who else would I get? Like, who's the top value point per dollar D man? McNabb. Okay. So if I play McNabb as a one-off, I mean, can he get there? Yeah. But when it gets there with these other guys from Vegas. So why not stack? I mean, I like the idea of throwing in another cheapo, right? This to me looks like a better way to do it than just playing the top 2 lines and hoping that your 2 cheapos get there on their own. I don't know. That's just me. But I like the idea of getting the power play in when you're doing the onslaught, and also getting in, like, if you're really going 6-man, getting in another cheap guy that could come along with them instead of just getting your 2 cheap guys as one-offs. I don't know. Just a thought. But I think that's the right way to go. I mean, we could take a look. We'll move back to DraftKings in a second. Let's move back to DraftKings and see how it did those one-offs. I mean, I don't think we're going to see the lines like that. So let's take a look. Let's go back to our single entry for the 333, where it really liked those onslaughts. And let's see what the combinations are like. Okay. So here, yeah, you get Cooley thrown in there in addition to the power play. So he correlates with line one, and then you get Fox in there as the power play quarterback. Let's see what some of these other ones look like. Let's see. I don't really want the diversifier on, but that's fine. Okay, that's fine. We just need to see the combinations. Here you've got it with almost the power play, but you get Cooley instead of JT Miller. Here you've got the cheap D coming along with Minnesota. Matheson, the cheapest D, and Boyum's already cheap, and he's on the power play. Here you've got this Winnipeg with Morrissey. Here in the Vegas onslaught, 1, 2, 3, 4, the 4-man. But you bring along the cheap D with your stack. And again, right? I mean, this to me works much better than the one-off D. Here you have a one-off D in DeMello. We're spending kind of mid-price both these. Can't go wrong with Darlene, right? Seattle's always scary for the reasons I talked about earlier, but same here with Montreal. It's generally liking the mid-range D. Ghost of Spirit, is he? I don't know if he's playing today. Saberson's got him as questionable. Seeing the news here. Is Shane Gostisbehere going to play? This is something you got to look out for. I don't see. Look out for their morning skate later to get an idea if Ghost is going to be in there. That's going to matter quite a bit. Okay. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at some contests maybe. I know Scott was talking about this, and we should do this more often. Let's just take a look. Did we look at Fridays? I don't think we looked at Fridays. Those are better than the weekends, right? So let's see the 4-man. I mean, okay, we've got a 5-game slate. Let's see the 4-game slate. What lineups graded well? Should we look? Oh, does it not? Can we not go back that far? Damn. All right. Let's see if we could look at yesterday's. And why? Oh, you could go back that far. Let's see. There we go. We had such bad contests because of NFL. Let's get something with some decent size. 20-minute effective entrants. Where's the number of entrants? All right. Let's look at this. What is this? The 20 max? $1 yesterday. Let's see who graded well of the maxers. Look at the sim. Look at these sim ROIs. I don't know if this is because you have NFL that day and just like people are punting off in other sports, but the ROI is looking really strong for the 20 maxers for these solid players. Got a 77% sim ROI. Let's see what the top rated lineups looked like. 5-2 onslaughts looking really good. Speed Racer got both of them. The 4-3, the 3-3-2 getting in there, but it's rare. Saturday was the last main night you played? Okay. This data, yeah. That's right, Scott. We just, we can't go back that far. Let's see if we could go back to Saturday. But look at this. I mean, this tells you something, right? I mean, game selection matters, right? And contest selection. Contest selection matters, and poker game selection matters. And that's your biggest edge. So I don't know. I mean, these are small contests, but maybe this is like where the edge is on Sundays when people are punting off from NFL. The ROIs are gaudy, crooked numbers in these ROIs for the Sunday 20 max single dollar. So I don't know. I mean, maybe we should be playing hockey more on Sundays, or just the ancillary sports on Sundays now that NFL is in season. Maybe that's like the contest selection we need to look at. Let's see if we can get Saturdays. If not, I'm going to bounce. And we'll do this again tomorrow, Scott. Yeah, we did have a 10-gamer, huh? The NHL scheduling can be a bit frustrating. But at least we got 5 games today. It's better than usual. All right. Let's take a look. Should we look at the mini-max? All right. Okay, nice job. Plus EV. It's not gaudy, but it's looking good. A little bit of dupage. Okay, so this is something we want to be careful about. Which is, I'm hoping that's the case tonight with the smaller. Yeah, that's right. I mean, there's a 2-game NFL slate. Maybe that just attracts some dumb money. I'm hoping that's the case too. One of these duped a lot. 149 under 5. So one's an over 5 dupes. Why isn't it? Why did that happen? Yeah, this is not doing a good job with contest data. Okay, not what I was hoping for. Let's see if I refresh, if this can help us out. It doesn't. Okay. What are you doing to me, SaberSim? Here we go. Let's take a look. Here we go. So let's see which one duped that many times, Scott. Your best performing lineup was the 3-2-2, but I don't think that's yeah. But it had a good EV. It performed pretty well. So what are the ones duping? Now, last time we looked, it was those 4 threes. Wow, the 3-3-2 dupes. And it's still graded really well, despite having a dupe. That says something. We're worried about duplication. You brought this up, Scott, and you brought it up right. Yeah, just outside the top 10, 13th. That's a pretty good finish. I wonder what percentile it is. We could look, but you brought this up, Scott, that but duping matters only to a certain extent. Like some of your highest ROI lineups are duped. So sometimes you could have a lineup that's just so good, it's okay if it does. It had to be with other SaberSim users. I agree. The funny thing is, it's not the Onslaught's duping, which you'd think the Onslaught's kind of funnel you into the same combination of the power play guys or something, but it's not that. It's the 3-3-2 and the 4-2-2s. It must be that those are just grading so well for those kind of stacks that other SaberSim users get to them. Where's the other? Okay. So where's the one that do multiple times? There had to be one. Yeah, the 4-3. Okay, one of the 5-2s duped. Last time it was all 4-3s that duped. which makes sense because that's the most popular stack type. Here we go. This 4-3. And it's still plus EV, according to SaberSim at least. I don't know if I trust that. But this 4-3, is that Pittsburgh? Carlson Rust, Raquel Crosby. This 4-3 Pittsburgh with Case Forrester with Philly line. Is that line 2 Philly? Yeah, line 2 Philly. Duped 6 times. I mean, you know, it leaves 100 on the table. There's not much you could do about that. Yeah, it is weird, right? It's not the onslaughts that are duping for the most part, which you would think it's these weird ones that are duplicating. It must be that there's a certain kind of weird stack that shows up as plus EV in SaberSim a priori, and so many people get to it and it dupes. But I don't know. It didn't cash either, yeah, which is fine. It didn't deserve it. But overall, I mean, a pretty good job. You got the 1%, positive ROI. You can take your Slansky bucks. I don't know if you made money on the slate, but you will over time. So that's a good thing. We'll continue to look at these. If anyone's out there and wants me to look at their past contests, let's do it. You know, maybe this gives us a feel for how we do this and that. See, if I were you, Scott, I would take out all the nonsense stacks and play 4-3s and higher. If not even just onslaughts and higher, but probably just 4-3s and higher. But that's me. I don't know. You don't have to do that. Obviously, some of these grade really well, and some of them grade well despite the dupage. So something to keep in mind. I'm going to get out of there. You said I did, but it was better before that. Yeah. Open nettered end. Yeah. The empty net stuff is frustrating. You know, DFS is frustrating. It's always, I always say don't sweat the games. And then, 25% of the time I end up sweating them. But there you have it. A little look at what we could do with NHL DFS hockey for today's slate. Things are going to change, of course, as projections sharpen. And you can get those sharp projections at TrueDFS. You can get Goldie's projections, Sheets' projections, all the tools we use for SaberSim. You can get the pay dirt analytics model for DFS and betting. We didn't have time to do betting today, but we'll do it tomorrow. And with that, I wish you good luck on